Good morning. I am so relieved to see this congregation gathered here this morning. It's a big deal. Yeah. I have a few announcements, more than a few announcements. But first, let me welcome you all. Welcome to those who've been here lots of times and those who are here for the first time or the second or third time. Welcome. I'm glad you're here with the Unitarian Universalists of Transylvania County. I'm Reverend Bob Renjilian, he, him pronouns, and I arrived during COVID and I am still standing through Helene. So glad to be here. Let's see. For some announcements, those of you from Jewish background will know that Rosh Hashanah was from Wednesday evening through Friday evening this past week, and the Jewish High Holy Days are upon us. Yom Kippur is going to be, the Jewish Day of Atonement will be October 11th and 12th evening through daytime. So we want to make sure we mention that out loud. For those of you who are from the Catholic tradition and know friends who are Catholic, the Feast of St. Francis of Assisi was October 4th. And so a lot of observances out there. I'm sure there's more. Announcements for us today. I want to make sure we know about the sign-up sheets in the main lobby. There is a sign-up sheet for food for the Haven. There looked like there were a couple of gaps still. That's for this Friday. The Haven is going to be expecting us our usual monthly delivery of food to them. And so I hope you'll help sign up. I think the last time I looked, there was a missing salad and there was a missing breakfast on the list. There might have been something else. So please go look. We are also looking for Power Up volunteers and brownie bakers. We had asked for maybe Shelley Webb or somebody to come and speak to us about what Power Up is about. Shelley's kind of busy. Yeah, with all the services needed in the community. But Power Up is a combined, multi-faith effort every year of trying to bring in funds to help people with their heating needs, especially through the winter time in this broader Transylvania County community. It's something that happens later on, but if we can sign up volunteers now and sign up the folks, we provide the brownies. The Jewish group provides something else. St. Philip's provides the space and a kitchen to do other pieces. If we can get that going, they'll be less nervous that we're pulling out of Helene and we are paying attention to the needs for the winter. There are posters out in the lobby. One is for free FEMA help. You need to sign up for FEMA. There is help, free help tomorrow at Pisgah Legal in Hendersonville. The address is on the poster sheet in the lobby. Please, we want people to be able to access funds. There are so many rumors going around. It's awful the way people are politicizing disaster relief. FEMA has a website just for frequently asked questions and rumors. No, you do not sign over your property to FEMA in order to get benefits. No, if you get the initial $750 to help you make it through these next couple of weeks, that does not make you ineligible for further aid. I mean, there are so many rumors. Sign up with FEMA. You got damage, sign up with FEMA. Somebody else told me that if you're on CPAP or have medical equipment that needs to be charged, FEMA can also give you extra to get a generator or other things like that. I mean, there's more to it than we can even imagine. And Pisgah Legal is going to be really helpful on this. So I have news from the UUs of Asheville. Their building's okay. Their people, of course, are struggling with all sorts of things. News from Hendersonville. Their building's okay, but the last we knew, they still didn't have power and internet. but I talked with George, the minister there, and of course, I told him how we're doing here. We had a tree down, but then we had Bart and Richard come and mess with the tree, and it fell on the grass anyway. So we got the tree back. Yeah, it wanted to fall, and we cut it to pieces. All right. And the mountain, I was first told the mountain, well, we had some trees down, but we're okay. But then I got an email yesterday saying, yeah, we're doing okay up here. We don't have power, and yeah, the trees came down all over the place, and we've had to cancel some retreats that were scheduled. We sent all the gay men home who were here for a retreat during the hurricane, and the women's group that's coming to retreat, we're telling them they can't come. And I'm thinking, you told me when I asked that you were doing okay. So I'm going to clarify for all of us who are going to be on retreat starting next Sunday night, are we going to a place without power? What are we doing? But I am glad to hear their buildings themselves and the people themselves are okay. So that was good to hear too. There's a sign-up table out there for a kids camp that is coming. Apparently there's an organization that goes into storm-ravaged areas, disaster-ravaged areas, and decide to run a camp for kids, 6 to 16. Who knows? There's a group that does that all over the nation. They say, oh, your area was ravaged. Why don't we run a camp for your kids? This is great. Kids are, out on their skateboards and their bikes and not in school, and let's see what we can do. So that group from Oregon will arrive to do the camp for 125 children at the Boys and Girls Club here in Brevard. And they need us to provide bag lunches for these children. And we're going to do it on, I think, Thursday and Friday are our assigned days. If you can help us assemble lunches, or if you can help purchase supplies, please, no peanuts, no peanut butter, please see RK after the service in the foyer at the table. And again, that's for kids ages 6 to 16, and maybe there's a way for kids to sign up too. All of this stuff is stuff that people say, well, you're the minister. What do we do? How do we get involved? One of the things that I've been doing with the social action team is anytime you tell me that you've heard of an organization in the community that has needs, oh, we need bleach, we need sponges and gloves, or we need personal hygiene products, or I have then sent that out to the social action team who are like right on it. And you'll see a box in the entryway for Anchor Baptist Church. It's like, what? Anchor Baptist Church would never do anything with us. But you know what? They were on top of disaster relief instantly and turned their Christian radio station immediately over to ongoing radio announcements every single minute to help people out. Somebody called in and said, we've seen some horses stranded. Can somebody go help them? And then I hear the DJs say, hey, we already had somebody call back in and they're working to get those horses some help. I mean, so they say they need some supplies. I'm sure we can get some supplies. Their entire parking lot I drove past this morning is full of pallets of water and items to just keep giving out and giving out and giving out. So I'm thankful for that. I do not have a worship associate this morning, but later on in the service, not right now, but in a few moments, we'll have Gypsy step in. Janice Cannon, my worship associate for this morning, is with a friend who's at the active dying stage at her bedside right now. So we'll keep that in mind. And Nancy.
How many people here still don't have power?
Who doesn't have power?
So I have an empty rental house that I have set up.
Here, let's put you on microphone, Nancy.
Sorry. Come stand by you. I have an empty rental house that I was about to sell to Habitat that I have set up as a bath and laundry house for my neighbors. None of us have any power. So if somebody wants to get access to that house, RK has a spare key to it. You can come here, pick up the key, the house is in town, you can go take a shower, do your laundry, get some water, sit around on a camp chair and watch your wash spinning in the washing machine.
Who knew that would be the most exciting announcement on a Sunday morning? Yeah. I invite you to turn to one another in gratitude of the time we spend and in the worthy respect and dignity of each one of us. Yeah, I should have said, we still have Wonderful Wednesday for coming up. Definitely show up for Wonderful Wednesday. The presentation on, the sign-up sheet, this would be the last day for sign-up sheet because it's been going on for a while, right?
We are not worried about numbers. Just everybody turn up.
We are, this from Ann, we are not worried about numbers. So if you forgot to sign up, you just show up. We'll be good. Yeah, and the sheet is still out on the counter. There are other sheets out there too. Yeah. Susan, what?
And our starting point class is still.
Our starting point class is still on after church, and that includes a lunch for those who signed up. Oh, and so Kristen says, so you have to leave immediately so she can reset the chairs. Yeah. I'm going to try to get us back into worship mood here. All right. I invite you to join with me in the chalice lighting. These are words from the Soul Matters team. We light this chalice to remember the light within, to ground inside is an echo of inner wisdom that wants something more for us, for others, for this weary yet wonderful world. And Gypsy, if you would come forward at this time and help me out, we'll do the candles of joys and sorrows. I hope I have everyone's that came through. I might not have. We'll see. You are so welcome. I'll start with a candle from Mike Griffith. Tom Hogan, one of Mike Griffith's dearest friends from college, passed away Thursday after a long battle with dementia. And positive good thoughts go out to his wife, Ginny, and their family. Here's a broad general candle, a prayer for those who are suffering from the storm. Jama has joy here. Lem and Marilyn Miller are the best neighbors ever. Coffee every morning, wine and dinner every evening. Christine Schmidt, best shower ever. And a joy from Jama saying, finally getting back water, power, cell service, and internet, and sorrow for all who are suffering from Helene. And let's light a candle for Janice Cannon and her friend who is dying. And let's have a candle. Let's all keep Joanna Bliss in our thoughts. Her brother-in-law passed away, and she's currently with her sister. And a candle for Carla Marr, who's been back in the hospital again.
Carla has been moved to Sapphire Ridge.
Yes, Carla is also now at Sapphire Ridge. A candle for Linda and Richard, who are living in their RV. And I don't see them here this morning. And Linda had written to me that Richard had had a fall and went to the hospital. And let's light a candle for all of those joys and sorrows, perhaps from the folks who are watching us online. Maybe in the hearts of folks who are here and just hadn't thought to write a note. In all, may we hold our hearts in wonder for the ways in which neighbors and friends have reached out and been the entirely best humans they could be throughout this. These are blessings. Thank you. And thank you, Gypsy, for coming forward to help with that. I can do that.
I can get it out.
Yeah, I can do that. The opening words this morning are from Sam Trumbore. What an unearned blessing to delight in the calming peace of this space, to hear the birds' song again at daybreak, to feel the warmth in this room, and to enjoy the promise of fall almost upon us. Each moment of wakefulness has so many gifts that offer energy and delight. Yet too often they seem unavailable as the weight of our troubles press down on us. The threats to our well-being, real or exaggerated, feel like mosquitoes in the night looking for a place to land. Minds become captive to the rising flood waters, forceful, murky, threatening, and ominous. Even in moments of great danger, the direction of attention is a choice. Fear can dominate the mind, blinding it like a straitjacket. Or love can unbind it and open it to resource and opportunity. The soil of the mind can be watered with kindness. The thorns can be removed by one to appreciate the buds ready to flower. Great possibilities await us, even if all we can see is the cliff before us. The grandeur of life, of which we are a part, scatters rainbows in every direction, even as the deluge approaches. Holding reality and possibility together is the holy, hope-filled work of humanity, if we choose it again and again in love. Come, let us worship together. I invite you to rise and sing the prayerful hymn number 83, Winds Be Still. The words will be on the screen. Storm clouds pass and silence come. Peace grace this time.
This morning for our words of wisdom, we're reading one of the stories from The Wind in the Willows. Y'all might know the book. This is actually a collection of, I think, all the stories of the adventures of Frog and Toad. And this story, called The Surprise, was suggested by Reverend Bob, which is very fitting for today. And we all have clicker problems. There we go. So let's go back one slide, please. Okay, The Surprise. It was October. The leaves had fallen off the trees. They were lying on the ground. "I'll go to Toad's house," said Frog. "I'll rake all the leaves that have fallen on his lawn, and Toad will be surprised." So Frog took a rake out of the garden shed. And next slide, please. And Toad looked out his window and said, "These messy leaves have covered everything," said Toad. He took a rake out of the closet. "I'll run over to Frog's house, and I'll rake all his leaves, for Frog will be very pleased." For Frog ran through the woods so that Toad could not see him. And Toad ran through the high grass so that Frog could not see him. Frog came to Toad's house, and he looked in the window. "Good," said Frog. "Toad is out. He will never know who raked his leaves." And Toad got to Frog's house, and he looked in the window and said, "Good," said Toad. "Frog is not home. He'll never guess who raked his leaves." Frog worked hard. He raked the leaves into a pile. Soon Toad's lawn was clean. Frog picked up his rake and started home. And Toad pushed and pulled on the rake, and he raked those leaves into a pile. And soon there was not a single leaf in Frog's front yard. And Toad took his rake and started home. A wind blew. It blew across the land. The piles of leaves that Frog had raked for Toad blew everywhere, and the piles of leaves that Toad had raked for Frog blew everywhere. When Frog got home, he said, "Tomorrow I will clean up the leaves that are all over my own lawn." How surprised Toad must be. And when Toad got home, he said, "Tomorrow I will get to work and rake all of my own leaves." How surprised Frog must be. And that night, Frog and Toad were both happy when they each turned out the light and went to bed. But why were they happy? For they had helped their neighbor. So in this time of need, let's all reach out to help our neighbors in any way possible. And now we'll call Eli Seafelt up with our Chalice Children's Candle, and we will sing them out. Thanks.
Peace be with you and a blessing. Peace be with you and a blessing. Peace be with you and a blessing as you leave us now. We heard during the announcements the work that Pisco Legal's geared up to do to help people with paperwork for FEMA. There'll be so many things people will need to work through insurance claims and everything else. It's good to know an organization like Pisco Legal out there for assistance and advocacy to folks in our community, especially the low-income folks. We're going to have a presentation broadcast here in our space, but after Helene decided they needed to gear up and be able to do the work that was necessary to help people recover. And so we lost out on a neat presentation that would have told us more, but we've given to Pisco Legal in the past, and we voted to make it the special collection in the envelopes for our Sunday services during this month of October. While you are giving to this congregation in the basket, whatever general donations to this congregation, also consider putting a little something extra into the large envelope that will go towards Piscal Eagle. We will now joyfully receive the morning offering. Thank you, Gypsy. Thank you, Ian. For all that is given in love, we receive with great joy. Thank you. In this calming, silent moment, I invite you, take a deep breath, reset your muscles to be relaxed. Choose your seating position in such a way that some of those aches and pains are not so bad, and enter into this time of prayer and meditation. Spirit of love and life, we who are gathered in this moment, in this room, online, are joyful that we have survived, that we are here, that we are here with our hearts and our hands ready to be full, to be fully human, helping one another. O Spirit of love and life, it is during trying times in which we tremble and then look outward, in which we are breathless and then breathe life into the relationships that we have, or in making new ones with neighbors we rarely brushed elbows with. The finest behaviors that human beings can see. In the most embarrassing ways, we did not live up to our best selves. We pray. We pray to center once again, to take care, to remember to thrive. Our hearts go out to those who are living in temporary quarters, taken in by friends or family, having fled from their own situation. Know that the travelers of this world deserve the best hospitality possible. May we provide that. Our hearts go out to, in particular, Linda and Richard, who are living in their RV. For Richard, who went to the hospital. For Carla Marr, who's been to the hospital and now in nursing care. For those we know in this room who are still missing utilities. For those who are just outside of our knowing, who have lost so much, who are worried about their animals, who are worried about family members, who are worried how, when their trailer home was submerged, that they will ever be able to reclaim the life that they had for their family. Our hearts go out to those that we see as we drive along the roads in Transylvania County and see that all their belongings are on the front lawn drying out. Our hearts go out to those whose automobiles are covered with silt up to their roofs and may never run again. Our hearts go out to those who are on the edge as it was, and now are left with devastation. May we remember that there are those who are going through the cycles of life, those who are dealing with long-term illnesses. Our prayers go out to those whose dialysis treatments were interrupted, to those who wonder how they might be able to get the treatments they had signed up for when their medical offices are overwhelmed. We have joys as well, named out loud by Jema, about neighbors who provide coffee and company and a shower. To those in this room who have taken in others, our prayers go to you with joy for living the best of what we have been taught in all the world's religions of loving our neighbors and doing for others as we wish they would do for us. And finally, our hearts go out to folks in particular, Janice Cannon, Joanna Bliss, and others whose friends are dying. In the midst of all the other turmoil, to have a loss is a great burden. These, and the prayers of our hearts and the thoughts of our meditations, we hold now in the silence. In the names of all those known and unknown, remembered and forgotten, in the names of all the helpers of humankind, we say amen. Blessed be.
Can you hear me? Yes. I wrote this song, it's called Miracles Are Everywhere, back in 1991. And that year, I had just started my new counseling practice, so every bit of savings we had went into the first and last month's rent and buying furniture and all that, so we had nothing. And a few months later, we had a catastrophic house fire that took 80% of everything that we owned. We had no clothes, the kids' toys were gone, just everything. And the pouring out from our church, from the room's recovery, big black bags, garbage bags, full of treasures, clothing. They passed the bags around and found out what stuffed animals that my kids wanted the most, that they treasured. And they had previous loved ones and new ones. It was, I mean, you talk about sobbing. It was amazing, the love that was outpoured. And we also, even though we were struggling financially, we managed to teach the kids through this time about people who were struggling even worse than we were. And to keep, reaching out and helping others. So it was a wonderful lesson. And then we went through Charlie, Francis, and Jean about 10 years later. Well, that's 13 years later. And both times we were out of our house for 6 months, so I know what it's like to be misplaced. And to the kids, it was an adventure because we made it that way. Music and dancing, I said, this place has a pool, so, making lemonades out of lemons. I've gotten pretty good at that. Had a lot of practice. So this is what I wrote. Everything in this song happened. Thanks.
When your life is going nowhere and you don't know what to do, just close your eyes and realize God has miracles for you. When there is no money for the rent, 'cause business has been slow, and someone pays you back who lost track of what you gave them long ago. Know that miracles are everywhere, and miracles are free, and miracles are happening for you and me. If they told you they were sorry, but you never would conceive, but God sent a soul healthy and whole to you 'cause you believe. If you hear a voice within you that tells you pull to the right, then you see a car spin where you would have been, but you couldn't see their lights. Know that miracles are everywhere, and miracles miracles are free, and miracles are happening for you and me. When you value your belongings and your house goes up in flames, but what you most desire survives the fire, just know God's angels came. Most miracles are very small, some you will never see, like the day you fussed when you missed that bus, but that's how you met me. Yes, miracles are everywhere, and miracles are free, and miracles are happening for you and me. Yes, miracles are everywhere, and miracles are free, and miracles are happening for you and me.
Julie, thank you so much for that original creation and that perfect serendipity. I don't know. Just
that 6 weeks ago before I ever knew the
before you knew. Wow. Wow. The reading for this morning is from the Reverend Dr. Richard Gilbert. Dick Gilbert is Minister Emeritus at the First Unitarian Church of Rochester, New York. I'm getting a little ringing feedback, Catherine. You got that? Okay. I knew him for many decades, and then when I was up in Rochester, got more time to meet and greet with him. By the way, while I'm mentioning Minister Emeritus, I did reach out to Ernie, because I heard especially the neighborhood he's in up in Asheville was hit hard, and he wrote back that they're okay. And I reached out to Eileen and never heard back from her, which was worrying, but I was on a Zoom call for North Carolina ministers to catch up on what needs we had and all of that. And one of the other ministers said, oh, I heard from Eileen, and she's okay. So pass that on. So anyway, this reading called Listening from Richard Gilbert. He's remembering back. Listen. This is a noisy world. You may have heard the story of a dispute in the student union of one university. It seems the presence of a jukebox disrupted conversation. Conversationalists petitioned for the removal of the offending machine, and music lovers petitioned to keep it, arguing that it was a very democratic machine. If you do not like what you hear, you can vote with your quarters to hear something else. But the conversationalists replied that what they wanted to hear, silence, was not among the options offered. The ingenious resolution was to include a 3-minute silent disc among the records. We are a verbal group. We are all good at talking. We string endless numbers of words together, and by my own calculations, Richard says, I have probably uttered well over 10 million words from the pulpit over the past 45 years, and that is a conservative estimate. Does the quality of the message vary in inverse proportion to the number of words uttered? Listening, the lost art, the gentle art. In my wiser moments, I know that one half of language is to listen. And while I spend much of my time talking, I also do a fair amount of listening. It's hard to say which is of greater value. I do know that the greater discipline is required to listen than to talk. To speak comes naturally for most of us. It is our default mode. We speak at the drop of a hint that there is someone who will listen. Charles Townsend Copeland, former beloved professor of English at Harvard, used to use 2 cramped and inconvenient rooms on the top floor of Hollis Hall. He resisted all attempts to move him to more spacious accommodations, maintaining that the top floor suited him perfectly. He said that it's the only place in Cambridge where God alone is above me. And he is busy, but he is quiet. I read one psychoanalyst who told that the story a patient whom he saw 3 times per week came, over that period of a year, and at every session the patient lay down upon the couch and plunged into free association. At the end of the year, the man pronounced himself cured and proffered his grateful thanks, and the analyst declared that during this whole period he had offered no interpretations whatsoever. The pupils of the Tendai school used to study meditation before Zen Buddhism entered into Japan. 4 of them, who were intimate friends, promised one another to observe 7 days of silence. On the first day, all were silent. Their meditation had begun auspiciously, but when night came and the oil lamps were growing dim, one of the pupils could not help exclaiming to a servant, "Fix those lamps." And the second pupil was surprised to hear the first one talk. "We are not supposed to say a word," he remarked. "You two are stupid. Why did you talk?" asked the third. "I am the only one who has not talked," concluded the fourth pupil. Life speaks to be heard, says the poet. Sound is a living thing. There is no sound, no language, no music without the listening ear. Without silence between notes, there would be no music. In the Quaker tradition, we have liturgical silence in which one listens to the Spirit before one speaks. However, as G.B. Shaw once said about the original form of Quaker worship, he said, "I believe in the discipline of silence and could talk for hours about it." I know what discipline this requires, for even when I am listening to another, I'm often distracted, thinking ahead to what brilliant thing I am going to say in response. Listening then has a spiritual dimension. It suggests that I am not the center of cosmos, but rather one source of words among others. It implies that I have no monopoly on wisdom, that true wisdom may be found in listening. Listen. Listen to what others have to say. There is wisdom in all you meet. Listen to the sound of nature. It speaks and sings and makes music for those who pay attention. Listen. Listen to the impulses of your spirit. Take time to hear your inner yearnings, that still small voice drowned in the raucous shout. Listen. This is a noisy world. Perhaps this year we will listen. This is coming from my heart. That reading is something I sat with this week, about listening. I don't think I'd ever heard Dick Gilbert tell the story of the jukebox with a silent record as a choice. I wonder how many of us design our lives in such a way that there is always a noise. I can remember year after year having breakfast with a TV set going. Even if I really didn't want it on, somebody in the house did. I remember coming out of the storm. At some point, we didn't have power. We forgot we had a battery-operated radio. That would have been helpful. But we're sitting around, and then we see birds come back, and we hear the birds sing, sometime after that storm was gone. listening to that birdsong was poetry, was spiritually nurturing. Then all of our neighbors came down to our road and the exit to 64, and we stood there at the edge of what is now a pond, or was right out of the storm. First raging waters, and then just a giant silent lake. As the French Broad backed up into the stream that became the brook that came through our neighborhood and filled with enormous volume our entire exiting road. And we stood there, neighbor and neighbor, just looking at the water, talking about the flood, and hearing from neighbors we really hadn't talked to much before, the ones who were around the corner on the dirt road, in the same part of the world as we, but not part of our neighborhood association, that are in the trailers back in the woods. And they came out and said, I've been here 39 years and I've never seen it like this. And we learned about how they would be willing to use their super raised, jacked up diesel pickup trucks to ferry us out at some point. And another neighbor came forward and said, I can loan you a canoe. And it turned out that was absolutely essential, because we had two people in the neighborhood who worked for the Forest Service and had to get into Pisgah Forest because most of the staff could not show up, and they were expecting a group of children needing them to serve them there in the forest. And so they were getting ready with their official uniforms to get into that canoe. And then my next door neighbor, I said to her, you were trying to get out. She said, yeah, I'm with Duke. And it's all hands on deck. And I keep telling my boss, I can't be there. He says, well, we're going to have a car for you out at 64, but you have to get to 64 so we can get you in. I said, well, the canoe's about to leave. She said, please tell them to wait. I'm coming. So the three of them rowed the canoe off to Route 64. The sound of paddles splashing into the water was unique. When I was a ministerial intern out on Long Island, the congregation I served had a music director who didn't live so close as John. Music director came out to Long Island to play for us, but then went back to New Jersey after the service. And the music director forgot that there was a Sunday afternoon wedding and had left and gone back to New Jersey and wasn't going to be able to make it back when he realized, I'm not there for the wedding. And the bride and the groom came to me and said, Bob, I understand that you know how to play the piano. And I'm like, not well enough that you want that as a memory in your wedding. So they decided that they would do the procession without any music at all. And the bride said, it was so touching. People came up to me after that service who said, I have never been able to hear the swish of the bride's gown as she went down the aisle. Listening. Sometimes we cover up so much with noise. Listening. Deep listening means to do the opposite of what Richard Gilbert had described, of how when you're listening in a conversation, you're trying to think of what your response will be. That's not deep listening. Deep listening is being there and asking reflective questions, or a tell me more, or help explain that better for me. That's deep listening with one another person. To be a recipient of a deep listening exercise is a huge gift. To have someone who will sit there and listen to every word you need to say, to describe what is on your heart. Some of you may have had such people in your life, a best friend who you knew you could pick up the phone and talk for hours. Maybe a relative, a caregiver, somebody who would take the time and give you the gift of true active listening. This month's theme is on this, to go into deep listening, to remember to hear one another. We're going to do a few exercises on the retreat that I'll lead on deep listening to help us. But we're going to remember throughout our Sunday services this month to turn our attention from all the noise and to open our hearts to hear. A gift to ourselves and a gift to all who are around us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being you. Our closing hymn is a little more celebratory than the prayerful Winds Be Still that opened up our service. I invite you to rise and sing as you are willing and able. Number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. We extinguish this flame, knowing that some of you are going back into darkness without power tonight. We extinguish this flame, knowing that each of us in the glow of who we are is going to be absolutely necessary in a fragile world coming out of the survival into thriving again. We extinguish the chalice, but in no way are we ourselves extinguished, and our souls glow. Blessings on all of you.